Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense. Hey, last night was not a lighter version of what we were doing. And it wasn't even about me being angry. It's actually more of a plea, right? We talked about, are you an invitation meddler? Are you meddling with the invitation, with the people's invitation, with those who are inviting other people? What are you doing? Are you going to bring forth the king's anger and the king's troops? Don't want to do that, right? Because not only did he kill the murderers, but he burnt their city where they were inhabiting. We don't want that from God, right? You don't want that from God. By the way, that's not an Old Testament. That was the Old Testament. This is the New Testament. We're in the New Testament. We're in Matthew chapter 22. Let's look at verse 8, right? So the king, then he turns to the servants, right? And he says, the wedding feast is ready, but those who are invited were not worthy. Wow, there's a change. Invited all these people. Then he looks at his servant and says, these people who said no, whether they just said simple no or no with an attitude, man, they're no longer worthy. They're not worthy of coming, right? They're not worthy, right, of being part of this wedding feast. So he says in verse 9, go therefore to the main roads and invite into the wedding feast as many as you find. Now the invitation is open to everybody. Right? We get this, right? This is God saying, hey, at one time this was about the Jewish people. I wanted them to come to the wedding feast. They've said no. They've turned their back on me, right? They've done that with attitude. They killed the prophets, right? All of these things. So now everybody is going to be invited. Go outside of those who were worthy at one point. Go outside of those that I chose. Go outside of the original invitees and invite anyone. All of the people, right? All of the people that you find. Invite them to the wedding feast. Now, again, you got to understand. This isn't, hey, skip the dress code, skip the wedding etiquette, skip everything. This is, go tell these people that they're now invited to a wedding. They're invited to the same thing. I didn't change it and go, hey, this has gone from a 5-star dining experience to a potluck supper. No, which, by the way, can be just as 5-star for the record, right? But God says, invite them now to the wedding feast. So everybody is getting the same invitation that the original people did. Hey, everything's ready. Go get ready. Come to the wedding feast. Right? You know what you're coming to. This is what God is consistently doing. But people say all the time, God's never going to give up on his church, never going to give up on his church. The problem is we are unable at this moment in life to distinguish between buildings and tradition and services and God's church. God's church was never a building, never a certain style of worship music, never a certain traditional service, never liturgy, it was never any of these things for the early church. They gathered together. That's the first part. They taught each other. This is what we know about Jesus. They only had the Old Testament and they taught from it, right? This is fulfilled. This is what this is about. Then they broke bread. They prayed together. Right? These are the things that they did together. Do you know a lot of our church services are super far removed from that? We listen to somebody else teach us. We sing songs that we may or may not know with lack of worship fervor. Right? We don't eat bread with each other. We don't commune with each other most of the time. There's a lot of things that we're not doing within our service. It isn't a place for the sick, most of our churches. It's not a place for those who need healing, those who need taken care of. It's a place where the healthy come to feel good about themselves. Only problem is, we're not healthy. We just deem ourselves healthy. We just deem ourselves okay and better. How many times have you gone into a hospital to visit somebody and found yourself there the next day, week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years? Lots of us go in and we do hospital visits and then find ourselves in the ER for some reason, recognizing that the whole time we're walking around thinking we're the healthy one, we are not healthy. So again, sometimes God works outside and he says, you know what? We're going to invite the other people. Do you know that everybody's invited? The problem with most of our churches and services, not everybody is wanted. So again, God not only invites us, he wants us to come. He wants his wedding hall filled. He's got it all ready, all prepared. He wants it filled. So he goes out and says, let's open the invitation to anybody. Is your life open to just those who have earned a right to it? Or is it open to anybody? If good friends of yours came on a Friday night, knocked on your door, and said, hey, we're here to visit, would you let them in? Some people that's yes, some people that's no. Wouldn't let anybody in. But the next question is, if somebody you didn't know on a Friday night knocked on your door and said, hey, we're here to visit you, would you let them in? If friends need you, is it automatic? What about the people you don't know? What about the people that you don't know? If somebody reached out, caught your hand and said, I need you, would you be there for them? Would you entertain them? Right? God wants nobody to perish. He tells his servants, go out and find them. So here's what happens. And those servants went into the roads, gathered all whom they found, both bad and good. So the wedding hall was filled with guests, both the sick and the healthy and the unhealthy. Right? Both of them are in this wedding hall. Because again, these people are not worthy. God says these people are no longer worthy. They're not worthy. So now God's drawn to himself those who are worth it, not worthy. What an incredible idea. What an incredible thought process. Then God goes out and says it's not open to everybody. Is your relationship with Jesus open to anybody? Or are you just helping those who are deserving? Are you judging the relationship of everybody else? Are you looking around the wedding hall and saying, these people shouldn't be here, these people shouldn't be here, these people shouldn't be here? What are you doing? You see, you're supposed to be focused on your invitation, not on the invitation of everybody else. So I want you to think about that. I want you to chew on the fact that do you understand that God's invitation is open to anybody? Are you predisposed to the type of people that the invitation's for? Have you decided who can and can't? Because the second you decide who can and can't respond to God's invitation, you're off track. You're off track. Now you're in trouble. God probably not happy with you. If he's told his servants to go out and get anybody, and they go out and they get the good and the bad, well, that's what God decided. Who are you, who am I, to decide that's not okay? Do you know that God's invitation's open to everyone? Hey, chew on all of that for a little bit. We'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.